Okay. Here, this is interesting. So I guess I gotta say, I think the Fresh and Fit clips are getting better. I think that the conversations are becoming more nuanced. They're becoming more like it doesn't feel so much as like tear women, or maybe it's just getting to good points. I really don't know, but these clips keep coming up in my feed, and I just watch the little clips, and they're like talking points. So it looks like there's a new movie that's coming out, and Zendaya is playing a character, and the character is a tennis player, and she's having a relationship with two guys who are friends. So she's like a pro tennis player, and she's in kind of like a love triangle with like two guys. Now, basically, the Fresh and Fit are saying like she shouldn't have taken that role. She's for the streets now because she's with Tom Holland, and Tom Holland is Spider Man. Tom Holland can't be affiliated with her. She's low value. She's for the streets now. Um, Now, I know some of you guys are not into film, theater, so maybe like these types of conversations don't make like that much sense to you. So you're like, well, I don't understand why this would be a topic or something. But we've actually kind of unpacked this with Halle Berry before. So let's go back. So Halle Berry got, I think, her first, was it her first Oscar for Monster Ball? Now, Monster Ball is a movie where she has this, like, this, it was like a totally raunchy sex scene with this other white actor. And she was kind of playing this, like, the character that she played was like this, like, was she a crackhead, or she's like a mother who's like really down on her luck, and her son is really struggling. And yeah, it was, there's all these things about the sex scene being interracial, about, I mean, she just got like railed really in the movie. But yeah, she won an Oscar for that. So some people had all these ideas at the time. It was like, oh, she got it because of race, or she got it because of the sex scene, or whatever. She got the Oscar, and if you go back and like listen to her speech, her like Oscar speech, it was just really, it was a really weird moment in Hollywood, which is another reason I think it's like Holly weird, because there like hadn't been like a black female to get the award. The one who got it was basically like a prostitute. So all of it was just like, it was way weird. You can go back and read about all of that for yourself, but a lot of us were unpacking that shit, and it was weird. Anyway, so to see the trailer for this movie, Zendaya is totally, first of all, Zendaya is not doing that. But let's go back. Let's go back to Zendaya taking the role of Rue on Euphoria. Now, I personally don't think that Zendaya is very talented. I just gotta go there. Like, you have the world of like Lupita Nyong'o, who's like a Yale trained like actress. Okay, you have like even like Zoe Saldana. Like, I don't think she went to theater school, but she's like actually really good. Like, you're in a place right now where you have Lori Harvey's boyfriend, right? Like, you have really good actresses and actors. I also don't. People keep talking about how because Tom Holland played Spider-Man, that means that he's so great. Like, Tom Holland is not by any means like a Denzel Washington. I will give it to. I saw what is it, Elvis, the movie Elvis. Like, Austin Butler would be like the actor to watch, and obviously like Austin Butler is with Kaya Gerber. Like, um yeah, so if you're talking about even theater chops, like Austin Butler would be like the guy to watch if you're talking about like raw like actor talent. But I also really think there is something to craving a lane for yourself. Now, I will say there are other phenomenons. Like, personally, my idol probably in life might be like Angelina Jolie. I just think everything about her is impeccable. It's not just the fact that she grew up in a Hollywood family. I mean, everybody hated her. Fucking everybody. Like, even Hollywood had like thrown her out. She was doing all type of like vampire shit. She went through a whole like lesbian phase. She was like drinking blood, sleeping with incest, all type of crazy shit. Like, she has like the most interesting life probably of anyone. Like, fucking adore Angelina Jolie. She's my favorite. I love it her so much. I'd probably get like a tattoo of Angelina Jolie like somewhere where no one could find it. Like, I'm not like obsessed, but I really adore. She as a human being inspires me, because I've never seen anyone deal with adversity quite like that. Oh shit, I don't know if this came out. I really hope that you guys can still hear me, but if this came out, I'm gonna be so mad. Of course, my fucking mics always start to break. Anyway, where were we going with this? So, so Zendaya gets the role of Rue on Euphoria. Now, Euphoria is super popular with like kids right now, and I think like some people talk about like shows like The Idol, Euphoria, and they're like these shows are so good. There's acting and all this stuff. Unfortunately, the thing about like television and media and all this shit, we can say like rap is just rapping, it's just rapping, and then you go look at what's happening with Chicago, and then you see Gunna who's actually in jail. You see Tory Lanez who's like behind bars. You see people really starting to die. Like all of a sudden, the fiction and the story has become reality, but it's just art, right? Like I don't really know. Like we're doing a really major part of YouTubers right now. You have no idea how like black representation on YouTube is like changing black representation in Hollywood. You have no idea the links on that, and I can make whole other video essays about how that's happening. Um, I won't right now, but I will do that. I will do that eventually when I have more time. Maybe it's something I can work on some of my new days off, right? Anyway, um, uh, let's go back. So, Zendaya takes the role of Rue. Now, if people want to talk about, let's fast forward to what typecasting is. Typecasting is a sort of thing in acting where you take on a particular role. It's kind of like Winona Ryder is really good for this. She always takes on the role of like the outsider girl in like a whole bunch of movies. And so there's a lot of stories in that particular lane. And so she can easily, like in her youth at least, she would take on all of these types of roles that were like the outsider girl, the alt girl. And she's like, if anyone is looking for a role like that, they can cast her in it because they know that she's gonna like kill in it. People are gonna believe it, people are gonna see it. She has an audience for that role, and that's kind of what Zendaya created for herself by taking on the role of Rue. And then like she like typecast herself into this place of like urban, how do you say it, like urban theater, urban, how do you like, colored girl with urban problems. That would be like colored American girl with urban problems, right? It's kind of, and now if you actually look at society right now, we see this over and over again. Who else is dealing with this? Kaylani is Zendaya. I would say they're in like the same, like Kaylani's real life. Well, maybe not like exactly, but I mean, look at her music, all the shit that she stands about, the way she's living her life. Like, it's kind of like Rue a little bit, right? Like, kind of. There's a show like Blindsiding. It's also very similar to that. Like, all of a sudden, like, theater became reality, and everyone's like, wait a minute, it was just television. It was just television. So I think Fresh and Fit kind of, I don't know about, here's what I will say. I think Tom Holland and Zendaya's relationship is Tom Holland's and Zendaya's relationship. Um, I think it's really strange for people to try to have these like, um, how do you say, other, man, how do we put this? Like some person's idea around a hierarchy and a title, even things like marriage. Like if two people believe in, like I think Candace Owens and her husband are a great example of this. Both of these people believe in traditional marriages. Both of these people picked each other. Both of these people are committed to their marriage. This has nothing to do with anybody else. Like obviously I think Michael Knowles made this point today, like marriage is like a public institution. So like when you get married, you are like telling the rest of the community of society, like this is my other person, this is my other half. But like their marriage, like it doesn't have much to do with me. Like I am not interested in being a part of their marriage. Like I don't have any interest in their marriage. Not really. Like I hope for the best, just because like I hope for the best for black women, but it just doesn't have anything to do with me. Like I care about like myself and like my well-being. And so there's this idea that I think the Fresh and Fit are trying to promote, which is like all women need to fall in line to be like, he made a point, it's like, you need to be elevated to wife. And it's kind of like, here's what I would say to any women, at least who are listening to me. If there's honestly a man who is like trying to elevate you to wife, and I think that like you should really go watch some actual married conservative people who will tell you about this. Like, I do understand there's a whole thing around like vetting and dating. Like, if you're not interested in a person, don't date them. Like, that's totally fine. But also, you should be pretty clear about like who you are and where you are to understand like you don't need to date somebody for string somebody along for 10 years, for 20 years, for like 100 years in order for you to like prove themselves to you. Either you want to be in a committed relationship and you're going to do that with like the best person for you, which I mean, people aren't really that difficult and people aren't really like that complicated. If a person is like a porn star and you're like, you don't want to date or marry a porn star, don't date or marry a porn star. But then don't sit up here every day like criticizing porn stars or OnlyFans stars who are like not trying to marry you and then like analyzing every part of their life. Like, just go be married in your own relationships. Like, there's not like one way to be married. There's a bunch of people right now who are married in awful marriages. That's a thing. That's a real thing. Like, just getting married is not well, first of all, it's not as hard as I think like a lot of you are making it seem. Like, you can literally go to the courthouse and just marry someone. Now you can marry, like, women can marry women, men can marry men. Haven't people been marrying dogs? Like, you can just marry somebody and now you're married. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not that emotionally invested in like your marriage. Also, the a major part of marriage is like it's like a financial contract where people are sharing resources, and the biggest part of that contract is sending resources down to children who would come out of that marriage. Like, that's the point of it. So if you're just like poor, you don't have any resources, I don't understand why you're listening to the Fresh and Fit tell you about like resource allocation and like selecting a wife. Like, it's this great process that you have to go through. I mean, I don't. Last time I checked, the dishwashers at like Jack in the Box or something aren't out here turning down wives. Maybe they are. I really don't know. Like, I haven't seen that be a thing. Like, maybe that is a thing. Shit, like I'm just not that sure. Like, there's a thing to like just being okay, being bored. If you're a woman, like, sorry, maybe just be okay for a second, just being like bored. Like, and not focusing so much on marriage, because like people, y'all are out here trying to make everything seem like like you have to make all of these decisions and do all of these things like to do. It's like insane. I don't know. Like, all of it's so weird to me, and I can't be the only one who like feels this way. And I guess I just want to talk about it because I'm like looking from the outside, and it just feels so strange to watch. Like, if you, there's a literal like male loneliness epidemic happening in the country at the same time there's like female capitalists who are like ranking in dollars, like buku cash, like head over heels cash, monetizing on female on male loneliness, and other people are talking about the politics of marriage. And like the 1% guy, he can only marry one woman. Like, are all of these women just watching the podcast every day trying to figure out how to be that one woman? That doesn't even make sense. You should like move on with your life. I think that you should go watch the Drake and what is his the him and his friend Little Yachty had a whole conversation about how they don't even believe in marriage. Those are two pretty successful dudes who like, if you're pretty basically in what you could be pretty in purple and blue at this point, like you have a fair shot at dating Drake. He like like super fun boy and we'll probably write a whole song about you. Like, you could actually get it. You should just go get it. As opposed to like sitting around listening to the like demonetized Fresh and Fit dudes talk about the politics of a 1% dude that they don't even know, who's like super happy in his relationship with his girlfriend who's doing roles that clearly she wants to do. Typecasting is a thing. I think that Zendaya she should act in as many roles as she can get so that she can just become a better actress. Because over time that is destined to happen. As much as I dislike Zendaya, I will say the longer and longer that she works, like playing Rue, I think was really good for her because it took her out of her like who she is in daily life and then kind of like allowed her to play this urban character. A really awful point to that role was that it basically changed society in a way where now a whole bunch of people in society who look like her act like her in the show because that was their role model. And so all the girls who look like me and like Yara Shahidi went on to college, and then everybody who it's insane how representation changes society, and all of a sudden everybody is actually trying to live like the idol like Euphoria. Like, that isn't a joke. The reason that we have these like wokeathon things now and everyone having like real serious societal problems are probably because of the media and people living not in reality. Like, there's real shit happening, and I think Hollywood is trying to catch up, and they're trying to like understand micro communities of color that they never will just because like they're not a part of those communities in a genuine way. And even the people who are trying to give them insights that they're like following it out of context. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, you have to, it's almost like, one thing I never really understood gay culture and all the slang and shit, but like Kiki Palmer really did. And one thing I was very confused about this for a long time, she would always come on social media and give these terms, like say all these phrases like Kiki this, Kiki that. It was those are literally terms from like house culture, like gay culture. But and if you didn't, she was like a judge on that trans drag show or something. I didn't watch any of that. So I don't understand the culture, the language, none of it. Like, none of it made any sense to me. But she was like using those terms in context because she was like literally participating in the community. So it literally made sense. That's something that the Hollywood writers, they don't do that. They like literally will try to like co-opt black culture, communities of color, POC culture, and everyone will be like, this doesn't even make any sense. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So like, yeah. I think it's an interesting ass conversation. It's interesting as fuck, and I'm so here for it. I'm actually excited to see that movie just because I love seeing stories that are about women who just have complex lives in general. I loved the sex lives of college girls, like that show. Great show. It just had a lot of nuance. Like, everyone can say what they want to say, but I think that women, at a point in your life, you should go have an actual sex life, not one that's like super boring and that you just have like one boyfriend or something. I think you should have a hookup culture in your life. I'm sorry, I think that. I think you should also like detox from that though. Like, I'm not saying you should go to college and be a hoe, but I'm saying like if you go hook up with like two dudes or something, maybe not at the same time. Like, I personally am not into kinky shit like that, but like if you find somebody and you're like, oh, he's super cute, and then you like hook up with him once and then you just like leave it alone and then move on with your life, more power to you. Like, have your story. Definitely like be safe, go get tested, things like that. But like, also, if you feel like you've been like too slutty, like, oh, you hooked up with two dudes and now you're like, oh, I should go back to, I don't know what I did. Oh, I feel like such a whore or whatever. Detox your sex life. Stop having sex. That's what you do. Be celibate, right? Maybe do it for a year, do it for 3 years. then maybe until you find, if you want to find another relationship and now have a monogamous relationship, do that. But like, I don't think you should. I think I'm excited to see the movie because I think it's showing a story of just like a woman who basically it kind of shows some nuance around love and intimacy between multiple people. I personally think that like being in a polygamous relationship, which is like kind of what it's not an open relationship, but it's like polygamy because it's like two dudes and a girl, and they all kind of like know what's going on, but they're not like stopping it. And that's actually very prevalent in African culture. I think Jadena has a whole thing where he talks about all of his polygamous relationships. I personally have never been into that, just because I feel like it's just too much mental work and there's too much jealousy. And I also just feel like men are very like territorial and dominating, so it's just too much to like at one time knowingly share. It's just too much in terms of like what I personally have seen, what I know about society and the world. At the same time, like, I think that there's a weird thing where like men don't understand that like women, any woman can just go be in a relationship with another guy. For men, them having access to like really any woman is her like kind of like choosing to share some of her like with him. It's a much how do you say, it's a much uh, greater asset for a woman, for a guy to have access to women. The way that the fresh and fit dudes are talking about it, because they have video cameras and like they can point to like these direct instances of particular women. So it's like one woman who's like, I don't know, she slept with 20 dudes or however, whatever the number is, right? They can point to all these like examples for this one woman. But if you think about there being just in the whole society, if there were like 200 people, 100 men and 100 women, the OnlyFans girls would be like two of the 100 women. That literally leaves 89 women who are not OnlyFans women. And then there would be 100 guys who, some of those guys are going to be with those two OnlyFans women. Out of the 98 of the women are not OnlyFans women, right? Women. And they are all telling the same story about these two women. Do you see how like that doesn't really make any sense? The like numbers and stories aren't adding up, because like, first of all, if these guys and all the guys continue to spend all of this time telling stories about two OnlyFans women, they're wasting time that they could be investing in their own lives with the 98 other women who aren't the OnlyFans. It's kind of the way that you like literally see this playing out in real time. Every day, the fresh and fit dudes are getting on and they're talking about the OnlyFans girls. And at the same time, every day, like Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles are coming on and talking about their own wives and their own kids. And they'll be like, I did something for my wife today. I did something for my daughter today. I did this for my community today. And it will be like, damn, like, do you see how this works? It's like, well, two guys are talking about two girls, and everybody else in society is talking about themselves. And I'm now making like these retrospective videos about all of the communities. like, it's like, it's just, it's kind of weird to like, which character in all of this do you want to be? You can choose to be a person who's like in a real relationship that's not on the internet with a real person, or like you could get a puppy. Like, I'm thinking about actually getting a puppy, and then you could just be with your puppy in real life. Or you could go get a spouse, like husband, a wife, whoever, and then you could be with them. Or you know, whatever your thing is, if you're a lesbian, a gay, you could go be with your gay partner, and that could, like, whatever your thing is, you could actually be offline doing that and not giving your money to OnlyFans or porn things. Or you could, like, one thing, here's what I do. I like giving my money to like concert venues to go see like live artists perform and unpacking their work and like responding and interacting with other content creators who like talking about and unpacking like the meaning behind songs, listening to new songs, doing shit like that, consuming art, like fashion things, like hobbies, right? Like you could get those and like participate in that. But really, so I don't know. Decide who you want to be, but that's real.